she's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karis's Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karis, and you are listening or watching the guest edition of Karis's Comedy Corner. I'm very, very excited. But before we begin, I have to, of course, thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, to find out where all of your marketing needs are. They can tell you how to analyze the demographics of your business. They can help you with a flyer. They're also experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, HollywoodGreeks.com, to find out where all the Greek entertainment is, and HellenicFestivals.org to find out where there is a Greek festival near you. Trust me, folks, you will be eating souvlaki before you know it. And our other sponsor is SelectFlex. What is that? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? It's also called an insert, and you put it in your shoe. Why should you buy this? Let me tell you why. Your entire body needs it. Your knees, your hips, your back, your entire alignment, everything starts with the feet. And this is what's different about these orthotics. They have an adjustability in the arch, and you can adjust the arch to firm, extra firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. I never work out without them. I crank them up to extra firm. I live in New York City. I walk all over the place, always have a pair in my shoes. They are fantastic. Go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com. And there's a 30-second video to show you how it works. And for Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there's a 25% discount if you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY 25, because you, my listeners, I feel are my family, except I get along with you guys a lot better. So go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com. All right. So I am very excited to have our guest. It's going to be a great conversation. We met a few weeks ago. We'll get into all of that, but he is hilarious. We did the Dry Bar comedy special together. We were on the same lineup. He is a comedian that's been around a long time, and we can't wait. But I mean that in a loving way and not the way that he's taking it. So before further ado, and before I mess up his introduction, please welcome my guest, Jeff Nease.
Hi, how are you? Ella.
Oh my gosh. First of all, thank you for doing this.
Thrill. I'm glad to see you again.
Really, really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our time together. So again, we met.
Brief as it was.
Brief. It was very brief. We met a couple of weeks ago. Jeff and I and another comic, Ray DeVito, were on the lineup for the Dry Bar comedy special, which we filmed at Dry Bar Comedy Club in Provo, Utah, hence the whole Dry Bar situation and title.
Yeah.
And I did not know you, but it's so interesting. One of the many things I do love about being a comic is meeting other comics and just finding all that common thread. You knew a lot of the people I knew, although you are more of an LA comic, I am more of a New York comic, and you live now in Oklahoma.
I am in Oklahoma,
which is
jealous.
Right.
I actually was on a ship, a cruise ship, and I was doing you walk around. The weird thing is you're living with the audience.
Right.
And there was a lady from New York. She's in the end. She's about up to my waist. And I'm in the elevator with her, and she goes, where you from? And I hate that. I grew up near Detroit, and then I moved to LA, and then I was in Vegas, Nashville. I was all over the place. So it doesn't matter really where anybody's from.
Well,
but I said
to New Yorkers, it matters.
I guess.
We always want to know where people are from. That is definitely a trait.
She said, where you from? So I said, I said, I live in Oklahoma, and she spit at me. It was like, it was like a spit take, but she didn't have any water. She just spit at me. I'm like, why would you live there? And I'm like, because you're not there. You spit on me.
We are so myopic. It is really disgusting.
I remember when I first started, I don't want to say when I first started, a few years after I started, but when I was, and I started moving and started doing stuff around the New York area. And I remember doing something up in upstate New York. And we went with this guy, and I don't remember the other comic, but he was from New York, and clearly he's never been out of the city in his life. And we're up there in what they call the Thousand Islands, and it's it's a lake. You're on the giant lake, and there's trees. He freaked out. Go, look at that! It's a freaking tree. Have you seen it? Yeah. I go, yeah. It's trees. We have them outside. You have them too somewhere. It was amazing to me. I'm like, okay, well.
It's very interesting. Although I think as the years have gone on and travel is obviously a lot easier and more accessible and all of that other stuff, but definitely, I mean, there are people, they're very like community clannish. Like, for example, people from Jersey go vacation at the Jersey Shore. Now, the Jersey Shore is lovely, but you're still in Jersey. People on Long Island go to the beach on Long Island. A lot of people from Manhattan go to the Hamptons, which is part of Long Island, to go away. So sometimes, I'm not saying everybody, but there is a little bit of this, like, we don't venture out as much unless we're doing that big trip, where you get
there's the city somewhere, and then everything outside of it, and it is like night and day. I remember the first time going to one of the first times going to Jersey, and I went to, and in my head, who've never been there, I thought of Jersey as we see The Sopranos, or part of New York, really.
Right.
And I was working Rascals down at Ocean Township, and I'm going, there's grass away here, an ocean. This isn't Jersey at all. It was,
And there are people that from those suburbs that don't come into the city that often. There's that group of people.
I get that though, because I lived in Vegas for 14 years. I lived and worked in Vegas, and we never went down to the Strip. I mean, we never went down there unless we were working, or if you had friends come to visit and they wanted to go.
Right.
But you just didn't go down there unless you had to.
Right. So kind of tell us how it all started for you. So you grew up again in Detroit and everything. Like, did you always?
I grew up in Northwest Ohio. I started out in Toledo. And then and that was basically a suburb of Detroit. So I came out of the Detroit clubs, and started in '87, and then it was actually a great place to start because there wasn't a million comics. And we had tons of stage. Looking back now, it didn't seem like we had a lot of stage time, but looking back, we had an amazing amount of. I knew that when I went to LA, and they go, well, you get 3 minutes, or you get, go over here, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. But we had tons of stage time. So it was and we were an hour to Cleveland, an hour to Detroit, maybe 3 to Chicago, down south. So it was actually a pretty good place to start out. And it was, it was at the end of the comedy boom. So you could do a ton of one-nighters and what have you, and little comedy nights all in between the place. So looking back, it was actually a pretty good place to start out.
Did you know that you always wanted to be a comic, a performer, actor?
I remember, it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day because I was in college and I was in med school. I started med school. And sorry, I silenced this thing. Anyways,
is that a patient?
I silenced this thing. It's still, anyways. And I knew pretty much the first semester because I'm terrible at math, and I just immediately I knew I wasn't gonna. This wasn't gonna. I'm not gonna cut it. And then I started becoming like I'll go be an EMT, like a paramedic or something like that. And then I was always a film nut. So I go, well, okay, I'll take film course. They didn't have a film college, but I figure I'll get a degree there, and then I'll go to LA or New York, and I'll go to a proper film college after this. But while I was there, you had to take basically a theater degree. So I took costume and acting and lighting and sound, every part of the theater. And when I did acting, I got, the bug. I want to say it's the bug, but I think it was just a realization of when I listened to Carlin albums when I was a kid. And it was the Carlin albums when I was growing up, because I just never thought a comic was like a rock band, because he would talk and you'd hear an audio, it sounded like a stadium to a young kid, and it was just like, oh, I just would love to do that. And I was at that age going, am I in college because I want to get a job, or it's because I really want to, what I really want to do is start doing stand-up. So I convinced a friend of mine to go on stage with me as a team because I was too scared to go by myself. And we had this horrible double act for about a year. And, the open mics and whatnot. And then one day he kind of met a girl through it. So he was done. And I was a solo act. So
that's funny.
yeah, it was literally kind of just, he didn't really want to do it. It was just kind of a fun thing for him, but I really wanted to do it.
How did your family take it?
I was really lucky because I was dropping out of college to do comedy.
Right.
And that's a hard pill to swallow if you're a parent, But I think they were just, we don't think it's a good move, but if that's what you want to do,
Okay, this is because you didn't have Greek parents, but go ahead. Okay, because that was not the conversation that I had. And
Ella Malakias, why for to do this?
Malakias, that's
Ella
what Malakias.
So I said,
exactly what they said.
I started doing it, and then I was actually doing the open mics and all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you a funny story. I started this club that I don't know if any comics out there knows, a Toledo Comedy Club, guy named Alan Cedar, who I'm friends with to this day. And he was like a football coach. In fact, he is like now, he actually coaches, but he treated everybody like a football coach, And I remember working at this carpet store. I was selling carpet. And he said, you want to be a comic, you got to have guts, intestinal fortitude, guts. You got to have guts. You quit your job. And I go, I can't quit my job. I got bills and all this stuff. Don't worry about it. I'll get you work. But you got to have guts. And I'm like, wait, I quit my job and you'll get me work. Yeah, but if you got the guts, you got guts to be a comedian. So one day, business is not doing so well at the carpet store, and the manager's talking about we may have to lay people off. And my arm goes up. I go, lay me off, which everybody else was very happy for because they're afraid they're going to get fired. And I got a little business card from him saying you can have your job back. And I went to the club that night. I said, Alan, guts right here, intestinal fortitude. I quit my job. I'm a comic. He goes, fine, go on unemployment. And he walked away. And I'm like, oh, I had nothing. I had no bookings. I didn't know who to call for bookings. I had nothing. But
you had guts, what you had.
it forced me to work, to write and to drive town to town and to audition and to all the stuff you have to do. I started putting myself in positions that were really uncomfortable and I didn't think I was ready for, but I kind of did it anyway. So I had to get ready for it. And it, 33 years later, here I am talking with you.
So okay, I don't know if that's a good thing, but let me apologize in advance for that.
Ella.
Oh my God. So you pretty much were like a Midwest comic, or did you just go all around the country? I mean, you were young and you're a guy.
I started out in the Midwest, mostly the Midwest.
Right.
A little bit down south. Did the comedy zones down in Myrtle Beach and what have you and that kind of stuff.
You just get in the car and drive?
Yeah. But I used to, I lived on, I remember $20 a week for food. I used to eat Subway and I used to live off bar garnishes at night. The cherries and the chips and whatever it was,
See, that's what I feel, and I don't know, however this sounds, to women, but I think for a guy to get in the car and to drive all over the country is one thing. I think for a woman, unless you are, built really solid and can defend yourself, I think is a totally different thing.
Yeah, I didn't feel all that safe either.
Oh, right. And it just is what it is. It's not like a man-woman thing. I just feel like a woman driving in the middle of the night. I don't care if you're in your 20s, driving in the middle of the night on a road is not a good idea. My opinion.
I remember driving to New York. I had this, I think I was doing Grandpa's in Yonkers.
What's his Al Lewis?
Al Lewis.
Al Lewis, right?
And
I never did it, but I knew of it.
my dad at the time, he lived in Maine, so I didn't have a hotel. So I would drive up to Maine and stay with him on the, on my days off, and then drive back down to do like Rascals or whatever it was around there. And I remember one time my car just died on the way. I got it to the hotel I was staying at, and I think I begged my dad for plane fare, and I just left the keys at the front desk, and I go, "Here's your car," and took a cab to the airport and flew home.
Oh my gosh. What, so when did you make like I assume the next move was to LA?
I was in LA about a year, and then I realized I wasn't going to make any money because it was all showcase stuff,
Uh-huh.
and for at the time, and that's when I started doing cruise ships, and I would do like once a month maybe, but honestly, they were paying so well, I would just start adding, okay, I'll do two, and then do a couple of the clubs and stuff, and then then it became the bread and butter after a number of years, and
Did
it's
you like-
just.
Did you like living in LA?
No. No,
What-
I like the idea of it. It
Uh-huh.
was exciting. I had friends out there. That was a hoot, but it was everything in minibar prices. It was, I was struggling, and I had no money, and I was with a girl that I ended up marrying and ended up divorcing later, but it was, I probably wasn't ready. I didn't have the right introductions. So I was coming in a less than zero.
Did you go out for any acting or anything? Did you try to pursue acting?
I did because I started out in some improv groups. So I did some improv groups out there. But it was, they wanted you to commit to not leaving town. And I had to.
Right.
And it was the one thing that amazed me to this day was I got wrapped up in the industry to learn how to be in the industry. There's a whole industry on just, okay, I'm going to be acting. Well, okay, there's a whole industry of learning how to act. And then there's a whole industry of learning how to audition. And then there's a whole industry of learning how to get a right headshot, and then learning how to find this and learn the whole thing. And I'm going, this is just, you guys are just, it's a circle jerk. I'm sorry.
It's perpetual school.
It was perpetual. And, I was, at the time I had a young child back home, and I was, I just go, I got to make some money. I got a kid to feed and all that kind of thing. So,
right.
I could I become a star? Who knows? But you know what? I'm talking to you.
Oh, and again,
I made it.
And again, I'm sorry. So, and I want to say I'm sorry to the viewers. I know I look heinous. I've got a cold sore. I'm like a mess, but
no one would have known it. And now all we're doing is looking.
Trust me.
I can't see it.
It's whatever. It's all there. So then you said you ultimately you went to Vegas, which I know a lot of comics did do that.
Yeah.
And like save them financially.
That was great. I do about 8 or 10 weeks a year in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And it was great. One, because it was a great experience. You got a chance to work with great people and of course great hotels. And then it was kind of cool to say you lived in Vegas.
Right,
it was kind of cool to work in Vegas. But I was there 14 years. And after a while, I kind of was there too long.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of became a local.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was, before you get a call last minute. Hey, you want to make $50? I'm like, no, I want what I got when I started out there,
Right.
regular.
Right.
And it was time to go. It was time to go.
Who did you work with in Vegas or in LA that would like really inspired you or like you were blown away by?
Well, I tell you, there's two stories, and they both came out of the home club I started out at in Ohio. It was the ones that blew me away for two different reasons. One was, and to this day, my favorite is Richard Jeni. And it was just, I remember I'm a kid, as before I moved to LA, and he did an hour and a half. And the next show did a different hour and a half. Then a third show did a mixture of the two for an hour, then another half that we didn't see. And then in between shows, he could have been nicer to me. We were hanging out and talking. And I remember being behind the club and there was a bicycle back there. And I don't even remember, there was nothing unusual about it. We just kind of talked about this bicycle. He did 20 minutes, that's last show, on that bicycle. It was economical. It was hilarious. It was, and I'm like Salieri and Amadeus. I'm going, you people don't know what you're seeing. This is just happening. This is like magic happening. I'm blown away. This is a guy who knew his own comedy voice so well. He could talk about anything. And it was just, my jaw was on the ground. And he's one of the few people that I saw live that I couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard. It was just stunning what he was doing. I'll never be able to describe. And that thing about the bicycle and watching him just do it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Rest in peace. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, that's a great story.
And then the other one was who I met just briefly was Jeff Foxworthy. And only because I met a lot of famous acts, I won't mention who they were, but a lot of them were kind of dicks, to the young guys, especially, if look, I'm not from LA at the time. I'm not from Vegas. I'm not from New York. I'm a nobody. I'm a local. And I was always really respectful and nice, but sometimes they're like, I don't want to even talk to you. And I remember doing a gig in Detroit and Jeff Foxworthy was working my home club. So I raced down after my set to catch the end of his set. And it was about a week before I moved to LA. And he said to me, hey, you're the one moving to LA, right? I said, yeah, because he was talking, the club owner and stuff. He goes, you're going to be great. I bet everyone's telling you you're going to get eaten up and spit out. And I go, yeah, because, they were. And he goes, don't listen, there's just as much shit there as any place else. It's fine. You're going to be great and all this stuff. And he couldn't have been, he didn't know me from Adam. He goes, I've heard great things about you. He couldn't have been nicer. And it was just that one little conversation that got me through my time in LA. I didn't have that fear of the LA clubs, as an outsider coming in. It was.
That's so nice. That's a nice story.
He couldn't have been nicer. And I hope to see him again one day and just tell him he'll never remember me. That was 37 years ago.
People like that, you never know. You never know. But when you were in LA, did you do the Comedy Store? Were you part of that?
Yeah, but it was 5 minutes. It was the Comedy Store, and then every comedy night around town. And it was exciting, but I knew I wasn't growing yet. And the one thing is, I was so prepared to bring an act, and Tony Camacho from New York, who was kind of walking me through LA, it was telling me they didn't want anybody with an act. They wanted someone they could turn into what they wanted next. I remember doing a set there, the first time I did a set at the Comedy Store. And I went up with my little suit and tie and told my little, they gave me 5 minutes or whatever it was. And I did pretty well, I thought, considering, the time I had in a small crowd. And I called Tony the next day because they said afterwards, well, come back in a few months, whatever. And I called him, I said, I don't know what happened. I mean, I did well. And, and he was just laughing his ass off. He said, you are probably the only white guy there. And I go, because I don't see color. I go, well, yeah, I guess now that you mention it. He stopped laughing. He kept laughing. He goes, they don't want a white kid they wanted the next Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy. They wanted some young black kid without an act that they could shape to be the next whatever.
Right.
And that was an eye opener. I showed up with an act. So.
Right. So sorry, I have a name in my head, but I'll tell you when we're not recording.
Okay.
Someone that I saw that didn't have an act, but it was apparently the next best thing. Anyway,
that works. You know what? The longer I do this, I realize, there's no rhyme or reason to how you do it. If you get on stage, you make them laugh. That's what it is. Some people are just attitude.
Right.
And they can make it work.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to want to do this. If you don't want to do this, you need to find a good therapist and really talk about your childhood and, whatever your uncle, had a situation, whatever it is,
Yeah.
like you got to go through because this is so hard.
But
Um,
and you're
and you have to really
never
want to do it.
done. You're
Yep.
never done. It's never, you never go, okay, I got the act now. You're
Right.
never there. I told
Oh,
a friend of
God,
mine when I started going back to clubs again, excuse me, because I was doing so many ships. I said, I got to get back into clubs. I started doing clubs and I go, you know what? I don't have an act. I don't have that. I can fill the time. I can keep them laughing the whole time, but I didn't have that opener and that section and this and the big closer. I didn't have that because we were doing the ships. It was piecemeal. You were doing shows kind of piecemeal. You're doing, okay, we want 15 here. We want 45 here. We want a different 40. This one's got to be family. This has got to be adult. Okay, we need 10 minutes here. And you're piecemealing it all over. So you didn't have that A to Z act that we all hope to get.
So as far as cruise ships go, that's its own different animal. So that's the other thing too. So someone goes, what do you do? And you go, I'm a stand-up. And it's like, and they have this preconceived notion that you're at Caroline's every night on Broadway, and that's where you work, and and that's where you get your paycheck from. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. We do private shows, we do all kinds of different things, crazy things.
Sure.
In crazy places, but ships are their own animal, and they have a lot of, people don't realize it, a lot of restrictions, and
Not as many as you'd think.
oh really? I mean,
no, in fact, I feel like that I've grown more as a comic in the last probably 10 years doing the ships, because now it depends what ship you're on. If like you ask, any of the New York comics, John Joseph does a ton of ships, Tony Darrow does a bunch of ships. You name them, anybody that's done ships. You'll have your thing where they want to be kind of family clean, but most of the time they'll have a late night show or a club or something, and it's no different. Michelle Ballin out there, she's no different on the ship than she is, in a club in New York. She's exactly the same.
But your lifestyle is different because
that's different.
A ship.
That's different.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that?
It depends on the ship. There's somewhere, here's your suite at the balcony and enjoy your time in the cigar room and just enjoy your time, and we'll let you. Then there's other ones going, get down below and, and this. It's not as hard as you think. And there's so many great people that you get to work with. And, you are all in the same boat. So it's not like, for the most part, we get treated pretty darn well. Mm-hmm. Pretty darn well, but it depends on the ship. The bigger the ship, the smaller the cabin. So I like these smaller ships, even if they're older people. Here's your suite. Yes, I will have another lobster. Thank you.
I've only done 2 ships. One was one of the commercial ones, which was.
Are we not allowed to mention the names?
I don't care. It was Carnival. I don't care what it was.
Okay, that's different.
I was all the way. You know what?
I wouldn't do Carnival.
I was below the sea. Well, it was my first one. And this was, and then it was whatever it was 15 years ago. It was awful.
Yeah.
Now you saw me in person. I'm very tiny. I couldn't even fit in this little room. I mean, it was so bad.
Yeah.
And
there they kind of treat you like crew.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And that's different. If you're treated like a passenger, and that's almost every line I work, that's how I'm treated, like a passenger. Now I may have what they call the comics cabin on occasion, but for the most part, they give us regular passenger cabins.
Right. I know. I mean, that makes it enjoyable, but, and also it was, probably before I should have really been on it. And so I did like my 25 minutes clean and, I'm like scrounging and
Yeah.
it was a challenge, but
You go through a lot of material. People don't realize you go through a
yeah,
lot of material. I'll go out and they'll say, okay, we want 2 different 45s. We want a different 30. And you got a lecture? Okay, we need an hour of that. Or
right.
something like that. You go through a lot of material.
And sometimes to go to the ship, like I had to fly to Miami and then fly to Belize and then take a cab to the ship. And it was like, like there's that kind of, there's all that kind
Oh,
of
I've
stuff.
been to China. I've done that stuff where I've gone down to Antarctica and you got to stop in Brazil and you've got what they call a legal connection, which means the airlines think you have enough time to get from one gate to the next, but they didn't realize you got to go through 2 securities, 3 customs inspections, get your luggage, the whole thing. It's that the travel, that sucks.
Right.
It sucks. And it's as much as anybody traveling domestically and they say it sucks, imagine exponentially bigger. Imagine that little tiny chair that you're on for 2 hours to get to where you're going. Imagine sitting there for a 14-hour flight or a 12-hour flight or an 8-hour flight. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But what am I going to do? I can't get the people to show up my house.
You have your rhythm. So where are you now with everything? So you filmed the Drive Bar comedy special.
That
So
was fun. You know what?
to see
I
that.
was really putting that off, even reaching out to them
Uh-huh.
because it wasn't exactly what I do. And then I talked to a lot of people and they go, no, it'll be great. It'll be great. It'll be fun. And why not? Reached out to them. They could have been nicer. You know how they treated us? We were out there. It was a blast. I felt like a big shot for a moment.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
No, we did. We got our behinds kissed, which was a very nice change of pace and quite unfamiliar, So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Can we get something for you? I'm sorry. What?
I
Can I go get you food? Can I
Yeah.
get you something?
Yeah.
Heat up your coffee, whatever it is.
Yeah,
It could have been nicer.
they were amazing. So where are you going back to doing cruise? So
Uh,
let's go back. So COVID and all
COVID.
that, cruise was the last place you were going to be on.
Yeah.
So is it heating up for you? Are we getting back?
It's starting. I mean, I did some corporate, but even that, everything just stopped. Did a few clubs, a couple clubs, but even that's, it's half capacity, which means, it's
Right.
just different, it's slowly starting out again. And it's changing day by day, they, I honestly don't know. But it looks like it's going to come around sooner rather than later.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I mean, we're certainly in a much better place and that's great. But, like when people ask me about New York City, which has taken a huge hit in just about
Sure.
every aspect. And, when we were hanging out, we
Yeah.
talked about it a little bit. And I say, it's better. There are more people. I mean, tonight or before I had to go down to Midtown to do something, excuse me, and coming home was like 5:15, 5:30, and there was a lot of hustle and bustle on the street. I live on the Upper East Side, so
All right.
that was good. I hadn't seen
Yeah.
that quite in a while. But there's still the restaurants in the street, and obviously,
Yeah, you know what? I get into politics, but I where I live is about as open and has been about as open, I guess, unless you're instead of Florida, is any state in the country. So they seem intent to work to try to keep things open,
Mhm.
and other places. And when I went to Detroit to do a few weeks ago to do a club, I forgot that not every state's like that, and they had curfews. Everything was curfew. The show time had to stop at a certain time because they had the curfew. And it's just weird to have someone tell you you're done. You can't go home because we know better. You know, because COVID's going to come out at 10:45.
Right. Listen, again, we got to speak a little bit, and I think we're a lot on the same page with all that. I mean, I feel the exact same way. I understand in the beginning it was like nobody knew, and the blah.
But
blah,
that's the thing. Nobody knew, but now we know everything.
Now it's much better, and also, maybe if we needed to do it for a couple of weeks to just get a handle on it, it was really about the beginning, and certainly here, was because the hospitals couldn't take anybody anymore. It was the hospitals that were.
But in New York, you had extra hospitals and all this stuff, and then the boat came and everything, and no one used it.
Right.
No one used it. I'm like, okay, well.
So that right. So that just goes to show you that it didn't become about the health, the public health. It became about politics. And even to this day, as we hear this, we hear Joe Biden saying that he was all about, he was the one that put the vaccine on the map, which is not the case. I mean, you can hate Trump as much as you want, but you're not living in reality.
Well,
understand that
people hated Trump because they hated him, his personality, but the policies, I'm like, he did get us the vaccine, the economy seemed to be doing pretty fine, but everyone just didn't like him.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you can't sit and say it was Joe Biden got vaccinated when Trump was president. So
also he was recently talking about how he was, how we got, because of me, so many people have gotten their vaccination that whole rollout and the number of and the distribution, everything that was all set up before he even took the oath. So I mean, if he wants to take credit, fine, let it. What does that mean? I just want to get back to work.
Right. But getting back to what you were saying about businesses and stuff, so that we had the curfews, we had all that kind of stuff here. They've definitely lightened up, and we're definitely, sounds like we're past Detroit, in terms of that, but it was so obnoxious. And especially with the, like you said, the going back and forth, and those first few weeks, that was really some scary stuff.
It's scary because nobody knew it. And it was like, okay, we've got 30 people have it. We didn't think 100. Okay. We got, 1,000. Okay. No, just 1,000, not in your state. Okay. Your state, everyone's got it, and it did get scary there for a while.
Right.
But I remember after 9/11 too, we stopped. You remember, I mean, after 9/11, we stopped. We didn't, you're like, how am I going to be funny again after this? That was another thing. But also, who wants to see somebody be funny? So in a way, it was kind of like the pandemic. It was a shorter period, obviously.
Right.
But there was a period where people going, I don't want to see comedy. I don't want to, nothing's funny.
Right.
And we've gone through things like this before, and we'll come back. I hope.
I'll do the Greek one. It's very strong. It's been a challenge. Luckily, I have been able to do a bunch of Zoom shows, which is not a replacement, obviously, for live comedy. But you know what? I figured it out after about the third or fourth show that it was like a particular rhythm. I figured out how I should stay.
I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know. I got friends that are magicians, and they figure a way to do it because they do sort of an interactive thing.
Right.
But boy, I've been asked to do a couple, and I just said no.
And that's fine. I mean, if you didn't, I had to try it. And it's worked. It's worked, but but I'll tell you what was good about it. I did do shows that people never would have hired me for, that were in a whole nother place. They weren't going to pay for me to fly to San Francisco to do their cousin's birthday party. So, I did get work that I never would have gotten. So that part of it is good.
Right.
On the flip side, I had a whole bunch of live shows that got canceled. So,
Yeah. But you adapt. You do what you can. I mean, I see that you wrote a children's book.
I did.
I
Yeah.
wrote a children's book, and it's being illustrated as we speak. It's
Oh,
taking
wow. That's great.
forever to
Uh-huh.
get done.
Oh, mine was 5 years. I get it.
Yeah, I kind of like, so illustrate this. And it's like, really? 2 pages? You've got, 30 more to go.
What's the premise of your book?
It's a funny story. I was working years ago with another act, and his wife said, we have an idea for this cartoon. And it's about, because he was a magician with a dog in his act. And he goes, oh, it's going to be great. We've got this cartoon. And he showed me a sizzle reel somebody did of the video of it. And it's going to be this and this. And we're going to sell this, and we're going to sell this. And I said, oh, do you got any scripts? He goes, oh, no, we don't have script. We don't have, So they didn't have it. They hated kids. That's the thing. They hated kids. They just thought it was a way to sell merchandise, which I guess was. But I got kids. I love kids. I watch, it's all I do. If you have kids, you watch this stuff. So I wrote a number of scripts for her, and she kept wanting me to change. And I said, well, you're gonna have to pay me at this point, sometime, pay for free. Oh yeah. When do we get it produced? I said, okay, well, just put it in writing. Well, I don't. So I go, okay, we're done. And but on one of the scripts that because she gave me no guidance at all, was kind of a little far out, but I like the idea of it. So I said, I'm going to keep this and just get rid of the dogs and make him a little boy and change some of the stuff because I like the story of it. So that's what I did when COVID hit, because I already started it. Like, well, I'll finish it. So it's a little boy who gets, it's called Patrick Donovan and the Kingdom of Clouds. And him and his brother gets in a hot air balloon, goes up above the clouds, it pops, they fall down into this land of cloud. When you look up a cloud, you see, oh, that looks like an elephant, that looks like a whatever. Well, it's populated with elephants and all the stuff that they see. And then there's a good king, the fluffy cloud, and then there's the evil storm king, and then they have a battle, and he gets to come home. So
very nice.
Yeah, so that was the story.
And you're going to sell them at your shows, or like, is this going to be a whole separate arm of your business? Or
I don't know. Well, once it's done, then I'll know what to do with it.
Okay.
And then I'm working on a 2-person theater show, which is this script right here. So we've been working with a director for that. We've been rewriting it, and we're trying to get that done. And I polished a movie script I was working. I'm just you have to keep busy and writing an act, trying to come up with new stuff, which I wrote another 45-minute show that I think it's good, because the problem is when there's not enough time to try it out.
Right.
But the sections I've tried out cumulatively, I think it'll work. So we'll see what it comes out. I mean, most of the stuff I did on the family show I did with you.
Oh my gosh.
That's all new. For them, I'd probably at least 60% of it was all new.
You were great. It was so funny. It was so fun to watch you. What is your 2-person show about?
It's called The History of Everything, and it's the history of everything from the Big Bang to today. And it's just 2 idiots talking about.
God, that's funny.
So, yeah, it's just 2 idiots talking about the evolution of everything.
Are you going to put it up in Tulsa, like local?
We're looking at some places in Florida right now. Maybe try it out here. Maybe try it out and get a video of it, and then use that to try to sell it to other places. I don't know. I'm just working on creating the product, and once it's done, we'll see where we can put it up. It's meant to be a cheaply produced show, so there'll be a lot of video, but basically 2 actors and a stagehand and a tech, and that should be enough to be able to produce it, I think.
So you're married, you have 3 kids, you said?
I was married before. I have a 31-year-old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
grown up.
And I have an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old.
So
a bit of a break in there.
How's that working out?
It's God's timing is perfect. Let's just say that. There was 20 years in there where he goes, "Nah, you're not. No, you're." put the bottle down, get off the road a little bit, and maybe we'll talk about kids.
Oh my God. How is being a father, all those years later?
I think I have the maturity for it now, but I don't have the strength for it. You know, you need a lot of upper body strength because they just want to be picked up and thrown and wrestled. And I'm like,
That's so funny.
you're so heavy.
Do you think it's more of a challenge, forgetting about the finance aspect of it, but do you think it's more of a challenge raising kids now than it was with your older child?
Well, I tell you one thing, and I'm seeing it even here, which is a very red state. If you think about it, it's the indoctrination of education, how they're trying to tell people not how to think, but what to think.
Correct.
And little things creeping in where you're like, well, wait, he's in the first grade. He's in kindergarten. No, we're not there yet, and
Right.
and this person is, no, you teach him how to read and write and let me tell him what he should think about.
Right. No,
I don't use my kid to advance your agenda.
Right.
And I'm seeing that in a new way. And this is my oldest son is a teacher.
Mhm.
And he married a gal with 3 kids already. And one of their kids was brought home one of their assignments. And I won't give you the details, but it was basically tell me why I want an essay on why this is wrong and this is right, basically on a certain political issue. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is why it's wrong to do this and why it's right to, and like, wait a minute, you've crossed the line now. I'm trying not to be too specific, so I'm coming across very vague.
No, I got it. And this is the problem. There's a bunch of problems, which is exactly what you're saying. And also, not only they're shoving it, they're doing it at such a young age. It's like, it's to me, it's almost like child abuse. Let a child be a child because
Yeah.
it lasts a second.
Oh,
It
yeah.
lasts a second. Just like at home, you're not going to throw your adult problems on your kids. You want to make it so that, they get the kid experience because
And also is everything colored with race? I know I'm a white guy and I'm a straight guy, so I got it pretty good. I know that. However, my kids, I don't see color. My kids don't see color. But why are you telling me my 6-year-old is an oppressor? He can't lift the toilet seat up.
Right.
He can't, he's not oppressing anybody, but anyways,
No, it's okay. It's fine.
no, it's just, it makes me angry because I'm like, wait a minute, they're not victims. They're not oppressors. They're kids.
Right.
Let them be kids. There'll be time enough to horrify them.
And there's so much to learn. I mean, because they are going to live in an electronic age.
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that they're not going to be able to know how to write, I think you should focus more on grammar and math and science and there's
Yeah.
and the class. I mean, high school. I have a one niece that's in high school, and down that sort of those same lines. I'll tell you exactly what she said to me. She goes, "I'm on my 3rd critical race class, just as junior year." She goes, "This is exactly what she said, not me. I didn't probe or whatever." She goes, "I learned about slavery in the 3rd grade."
Yeah.
I got it. I mean, it's just like, it's like, I don't understand what is the end result? Do you want everybody to be angry? I mean, what's the end?
I try to teach my kids
That's
every
what
chance I get that, look, of course, no one's saying it didn't happen. Of course it happened. And no one's even saying it didn't happen 400 years ago. It's still happening around the world.
Excuse me, a lot of things have happened.
But, instead of our country being built by that, and we are that, I take the opposite view. I think this country was built to end slavery. I thought this country was built to rise above that, because look, we don't have it, but China does. There's other countries that still have it. You know, no one's hiding our past, but you learn from it and you just don't do it again. It's like touching a hot stove. You know, it's like you just, yeah, that's not right, and it's painful, and you move on.
Right. No, and I agree. And I mean, we learned about it, and that's fine. I got it. But it's this constant barrage. It's like, that's why I said, what do you want the end result to be? I don't know.
And one thing about reading this history, this show of the history of everything, and we do a section on talking about slavery, because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some research, and there's stuff I didn't know about it. You know how many Southerners during that time owned slaves?
I have no idea.
25%, which means even 75% of the people didn't have. You know, you condoning it, that's probably just as bad. You know, but the Portuguese started selling African slaves back in the 1600s. It was going on, you know, we didn't invent it.
Correct.
But we ended it, and we also enshrined it in our own constitution, that not only that it will not happen again. So, I mean, now and then it's okay to go, you know, we're not that bad. We're not such bad place, you know, and wait till you go. The one thing that doing ships, and I've been all over the world, and you see your own country very differently when you travel. I remember going to China. I'm going to tell you a story about that. I don't want to take too much time. I was in Shanghai, China. And when you're on the ship, they have internet, just satellite internet. As soon as we got off, we went to their version of a Starbucks. They didn't have Starbucks. And they had internet, but you can't check your mail. It's blocked. You can't check Yahoo or whatever. You can't check it. It is blocked by the government. So you can't, there's no point of, you can only look at what they want you to look at. And then we're walking down the seawall, and Shanghai has the most amazing architecture. It's like a cross between Blade Runner and Mad Max. It was just like really odd architecture. And there's a seawall looking over the bay at the skyline. It's very phallic too, which was bizarre. A lot of the buildings were a little too on the nose. And we're watching it, and people are just packed. And there was an older Chinese guy. I guess they're all Chinese. We're in China. And he had one of those old newspaper satchels, you know, like remember you as a kid throwing the newspaper out of the bag, and it's full of flyers. And he had a hoodie over his head, and he'd get kind of hidden in a group of people, and he threw up these flyers, and it rained down on people. And then he got into another group and threw up these flyers. We picked it up. It was all in Chinese, but there were dates on it. So we got a sense it was some sort of protesty thing. He got to the third group, threw it up. Before it rained down, about a dozen plainclothes guys grabbed him, threw him in the back of a car, and every piece of paper was just gone. I don't know. It was like it just disappeared. I don't know how they did it. They scooped it up. They got every single piece of paper away. And then they were just, it must have been 30 seconds from the time he threw it up till they grabbed him, snatched it, threw him in the back of the car, and he was gone. And then everyone just kind of went, oh, that's, so anyways. And then you come to our country and you go, we got some speed bumps, but we're okay. I think we're okay. It was scary. It was really scary because I'm just staying there, clearly not Chinese.
Right.
And I know now, I'm looking around going, I'm being watched. Like somebody's watching me. It was amazing. I'll never forget it.
Right. Well,
I put a bummer on this, didn't I?
No. No, I mean, listen, if I could, I would never buy anything from China again, but that's impossible. It's not happening. I wouldn't have anything.
We wouldn't be talking on.
What?
We wouldn't be talking on this computer right now.
Right. So it's I've said this, I said this a long time ago. that it is a communist country with a capitalistic model, and that's what it is. And it is a communist country. And I think people, when they, it's funny here, we're trying to drill certain things into kids' heads. I think that some adults need to go back and take a history lesson and know exactly what some
Well,
of
we've also gotten stupider.
are about. You think?
No one reads stories. It's all blogs and headlines and clickbait and
The other thing is that when somebody starts talking about, slave owners or whatever, it's like, okay, you got to stop right there. My family's from Greece. And we've got, Italian, we got most of the people here that have come to the US are their families are from someplace else. So
yeah, and I'm actually part Cherokee Indian.
Right.
I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you want to start talking about people that got fucked over. Okay. All right. At least you have 40 acres of mule. We were like, keep going. Just keep walking. Just keep walking till your feet are wet, and then we're going to round you up and shoot you.
Right. Well, my Yaya and Bapu were picking olives, so I don't, so move along. So funny. So we have to tell everybody. So when I met you and I told you I was Greek, and you started saying Ella and Malaka and all that, and it was so funny because you worked on Greek ships. And
yeah. Oh man, what a great people. However, these are insane people you're from. These are insane. My favorite, I love the story with the girl with the cigarette. I told you that was this. They would crank up this music, and the girl's smoking her cigarette. And I go, "What does this song mean?" And she starts translating. Together we make the love, and then we will share a cigarette. And oh, okay. And another song comes on. What is this one? It goes, "You're my love. The smoke from my cigarette will engulf your heart." And I go, "Oh, okay." And another song. It was like, "What is that?" "I will meet you in the night. You'll know me by the glow of my cigarette." And every song was about someone smoking. It just, oh man, I laughed my ass off. But they'd always go, "But the translation and it's not exactly, but it's like this."
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So tell us now your background, is that like a new CD you have, or?
It is. Yeah. You know what? When COVID hit and we couldn't do anything, and every time we go out on stage, we got our little phone or whatever we got, or little recording device, and we record our sets to review and what have you. And I said, I wonder if I could do anything. I can't perform. I wonder if I could do something with these recordings. And I sent, about 30, 40 minutes of clips I thought were decent, and sent them to an audio engineer, a friend of mine in Florida, and he tweaked them as much as he could. And it's kind of like a bootleg, CD. So I bootlegged myself. So I made a CD. You could download it, and it's called
These bootlegs.
It's called Bootleg. So
that's so funny.
And it's I have an album you can just, and it was just some of her on ships, some are in clubs. It's probably more of the adult stuff.
You're very industrious, I have to say. I'm very impressed. You just come up with these ideas. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, I hope we can get to work together. Really,
I do too.
So I'm not quite sure.
Well, can I come to New York when it opens up? Can I come? Will you let me perform with you somewhere? Will you go, "I'm gonna introduce my friend Jeff"? And we'll try
to figure something out. Yeah, we'll definitely try to just give me enough leeway.
Okay.
It's not really a drop-in place. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of plan.
Yeah, that's right.
Plan a little in advance.
Well, the funny thing is, when I left Vegas, so much changed in just a few short years, and everybody changed that I got to start all over again. I got to reintroduce myself all over again.
Right.
But we're all going to be okay as far as acts. I don't know who watches your podcast. Is it mostly acts, or comedy acts, or fans of comedy? And
all different people. Yeah. all different people. It's
Support if you're a fan of comedy, go see a live comedy show when you can, because we need you. And who are we kidding? You kind of need us right now too.
exactly.
You know, uh, don't cancel us. Don't be triggered. They're just jokes.
Everybody needs to calm down.
Life is good. Look, you got enough to worry about. You're not that offended. You're going to be okay. Nothing will happen.
Just words. It's just words.
Sticks and stones.
You know what? They should teach kids about balls, having balls. They should be
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
picking up your pants. It's, wear a helmet, pumpkin. It's
That's right.
fine. Oh,
Well, thank you for having me on here.
So give us are you active on social media?
Yeah, you can go to Jeff Nease-Comedy, Nease Comedy on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or just say hello. You can go to jeffnease.com and you can see video clips and see where I'm going to be and what I've done, and just say hi.
Yes, and where you go and your projects and your new
And whatever's going on. Like my dry bar comedy special, which will be available with between 9 and 12 months. I'm like, wow, are you doing some computer animation? Is the makeup?
Like, what?
I literally thought, now there was another act that was there who told us, oh, mine was about 2 or 3 months. I'm like, oh, okay, that seems about right.
Well, one of the people from there said 4 to 6 months because they were trying to hurry it up. So, but then that email that we both got was not to 12 months. So.
And what am I going to do? Come on, hurry up. Hurry up with the free editing. But the ones that I've seen are so well produced. I'm like, fine, take your time, make me look good.
Yeah, no, they are.
Whatever
so I'm
you
looking forward to it. But I have to tell everybody too, it's like yourself, it was you and me and Ray DeVito. And, although, we were very friendly to each other and all that, but it really was like 3 neurotic people. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, should I do this one afterwards? Should I do that one? Because we taped 2 shows.
I felt very comfortable about that. And I'm going to tell you what, because I spent about 2 or 3 weeks rehearsing that set in my office twice a day, because it's not what I normally do. So I wanted to be very specific for that particular demographic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I had talked about it on the podcast. So we could not use, and when I say forget F-bombs, I mean, wasn't even in our sphere.
Right.
I mean, because if you remember when I was talking to Ryan, the MC, who was from there, so he really knew, although
Right.
I have performed in Utah, as have you, but I didn't know what dry bar thought was acceptable.
And I didn't want to go outside, because this is their deal.
Right.
And
right. Right. And
I'm happy with it.
It's fine, or else don't do it. That's my opinion. So I didn't say hell. I mean, oh my God, like,
Right. And I, you know what, I put a set together, and the funny thing was, it was the way I started out doing stand. Do you remember the very first time you started doing stand-up and you were working on your little jokes?
Yes.
And you're rehearsing them to the mirror or whatever you did, however you did it in your room.
Yes.
That's how I did this. And it was like, this is like me 30 some years ago, because there's no clubs to try them out. I would try it out on these odd things I was doing, but I couldn't,
Yeah, for me, it was, the time went by really fast. So
it was fun. It really was fun.
Stage, they had the clock there, which was good.
Yeah.
Because I never do look down at my watch. I just try to have my internal clock going, but
Yeah.
It was good that they had the clock there. But then all of a sudden I turned around, I was like, oh God. So I did some, different stuff. I did some less New York-y stuff on the second show and whatever. So I think between the two, we'll be able to,
Yeah, I did a little different thing. The second crowd wasn't as, they seemed tired compared to the first one. I think it was a little later.
Yeah, it was later.
But I felt good about the first one, that it took the stress off, because the first one was fine. So we'll just do the second one.
Right.
get it
All
done.
right. Well, listen, once you do it, and it's hard to forget about it.
It reminded me of doing the evening at the Improv back in the day.
You did?
Yeah, oh yeah, back in the 90s, the evening at the Improv,
Wow.
And it got a friend of mine, I did ask a number of people that have done it, their experience. So I was a little more prepared. And Ray, he seemed very nervous because he was changing his act right up to showtime, And I'm glad I didn't have I just knew whether I was going to do well or not, I'm committed to that set. So, that's what I'm going to do.
Right. No, it was good. It was it was an interesting experience, and it was good.
I'd do it again. I'd do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with but it was stressful, because you want to capture the moment, and they did everything right, and you want to deliver. So
any comic out there that has ever recorded for any reason whatsoever,
so
they know, it's not that I got to be funny, but I have to be exactly funny as now. That's when the stress kicks in. Or you can have the best set in the world, and that's where the drunk walks in late, or someone sits next to the camera and starts talking about their day, or a waitress, drops a tray or something. Right. So when you get a really nice production like this, you're like, I really want this to go well.
Right. Exactly. We know our little cult knows what we're talking about. So
it's not being funny. It's being funny exactly that moment.
That's perfect. I wish I said that. That is perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff Nease, everybody.
Thank you. When can I see your? When is this going to be on? When do I get to see it?
You know what? After we get off, I'm going to try to get it over to my web guy, so we can.
All right.
Tomorrow or Friday.
Well, you and your family, you stay safe out there, and you take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. My name is Ellen Karis. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Greek Chick Comic, Ellen Karis, Facebook, Greek Goddess Comedy, or my website, ellenkaris.com, where you can find this and all the other podcasts that we have done. It has been 6 years, folks.
Wow.
6 years, 7 seasons, 6 years, and we're not stopping. And we get great guests like Jeff. So we are very, very, very grateful. So until next time, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.